What is good, everybody? Happy Friday to you. Welcome to another Gold Standard Podcast production, the Gold Diggers Podcast with myself, Rob Stats, Guerrera and Michelle Magdziuk. What's up, Michelle?
Hey. Why does it feel like I haven't talked to you in so long? We
I don't
talked last
know.
week, right?
Yes, I don't understand. Maybe because you don't text me back when I text you.
I know. I feel so
Throwing that out
distant
there.
from you. You did. I know today was an accidental, not pressing send, but you did text me, some Steelers videos from camp, and I ignored you then too.
Yep. And I
That's my
texted
bad.
you good Steelers videos too, and you just ghosted me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that same video on Twitter about 1,000 times. So by the time you sent it to me, I was kind of over it. But I
Oh,
should have wrote. I
sorry.
should have wrote back. I had a very, very busy week. My sister was in town. It was the best.
Yeah.
But now I'm
Whatever.
getting back into the regular schedule.
You Garoppolo'd me. What the hell?
Yeah. I did. That's my bad.
Weak sauce. If you leave a review, we will read it on the show. We will get back to you, unlike Michelle, or I should say I don't know why I'm not lumping you in with me anymore. So please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Here's a review from Rentis, who says, love the content, 5 stars. So glad 49ers in 5 is back. It's my first listen every morning, and I look forward every Friday to Rob and Michelle. Her analysis is spot on, all caps. Make us some money. We know she'll be rooting for the Steelers week 1, and she should. Shanahan is crazy if he starts Purdy against the buzzsaw of a pass rush. And I agree, Rob, it would be much better to see Trey throw 2 balls each week at receivers' feet than Sam dropping 2 balls on the center's butt. Go Niners from Ren Donovan. Well, thank you very much, Ren.
That was great.
I think you lied there. You lied. You didn't really think it was great. That was a very tepid response from you.
I really thought that review was fantastic. I didn't know you wanted a response from me.
I think Ren would say that you could have done better there. Just
listen. I'm so with him about the whole Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold thing. I think he has it spot on. I could not have said it better myself.
see, that's a good response.
Yes.
All right. We're working our way into form here. I'm being a jerk to you early on. I don't know why.
You're very upset about me not texting you back.
I think so. There's residual anger there. A few things we're going to get into today. Elijah Mitchell is hurt again. And it's just,
gracious.
wow, my poor guy cannot stay on the field. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Plus, I've been digging into some of the preview guides that are out there, including Warren Sharp's guide, which I love every year. And he's got some really interesting stuff about the 49ers that I wanted to run past you. Like some stuff is like, oh, okay, I'll keep an eye on that. And some stuff is just plain weird. So we're going to get to all of that. But let's start with Elijah Mitchell. I mean, he's going to be out about a week. It's an adductor strain. So we're not talking about like a season ending thing here. But this is part of the reason why I think his roster spot is far from assured, Michelle.
I mean, we're just through 1 week of training camp and he's already dealing with an injury. He's entering his 3rd season in the NFL, right? This is his injury history. Shoulder, chest, rib, hand, concussion, knee sprain, thigh hamstring pull, MCL sprain, and then another MCL sprain, and now a leg quad strain. That's too many injuries. You've been in the league for 5 seconds and you don't even get used that often either. Well, because you can't, because you get hurt. He's very talented and I feel really bad, but we were already nervous about them using a roster spot on him because he can't make it through the season. He can't even make it through 1 week.
He didn't even make it through minicamp healthy. He was hurt in minicamp and missed time. He missed 16 of 20 games last season. And look, I'm not saying that any of this is a character flaw with Elijah Mitchell, but
it's not his fault, but
yeah. Right. But if you're the 49ers, it doesn't matter why he's getting injured. What matters is he's not available. And you can't have that. And it's frustrating because when he's on the field, he's really good.
He is, and I think he is better than Jordan Mason and Ty Davis Price with the electricity he brings, right? So he's a nice compliment to CMC, who Christian McCaffrey's great. You can give him the ball you want. He is electric in his own way, and he can break off plays. But if you give the ball to Elijah Mitchell and any given play, he can bring that thing to the house because of his speed. So that's a really nice kind of backfield to have, where you have a trustworthy guy in CMC and then you bring in the electric player. And he definitely offers more than Jordan Mason or Ty Davis Price. It's just, I don't know how you let one of those guys go when you know Elijah Mitchell's not going to make it, maybe even one game healthy.
He had 245 attempts last year for 279, average 6.2 yards per carry. Last year is so good. But man, I don't know how much longer you can wait around for him to get out there and stay out there, especially because I know you kind of poo-pooed him a little bit, but one guy who is getting rave reviews so far in camp is Ty Davis Price. So maybe there's a little life there. Maybe the Niners are like, look, Elijah, we love you, but we just can't wait anymore.
Do you think they'll keep 4 running backs or just 3? Because they also are keeping a fullback, obviously, with
Right.
Juice. So that just seems like way too many guys to keep in the backfield, especially when you have Debo that can rush as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Debo running thing is going to be pretty much put out to pasture. I kind of almost hope it does. I feel like defenses have adjusted. It doesn't really work as well as it used to because they're really locked in on it. And like you have McCaffrey, you have maybe Elijah Mitchell, like you have all these other people. Do you really need to do that anymore? I don't know, but it's a good question because they're definitely going to keep McCaffrey. Obviously, they're definitely going to keep Juszczyk. I think they're going to. I don't know that McCaffrey's going to be on, or Mitchell's going to be on the team. So I think he's going to be out. I think Ty Davis Price will make it unless he like completely craters in the preseason, but I think he'll be there. And then Jordan Mason's going to make it.
Do you remember who was getting rave reviews though? Right before he got cut was Trey Sermon.
Okay. But I think they were trying to trade him. And everything I've heard, even going back to last season with Ty Davis Price, is that specifically this isn't a Trey Sermon situation, that they do actually like him. So we'll see. But Jordan Mason's also had like a fumbling problem so far in camp too. So it's like, damn, can we get some sort of stability behind McCaffrey, please?
I mean, you want Elijah Mitchell. Like, you want him to stay healthy and you want him to be not just the backup for if in case something happens to CMC, but also to be utilized in every game. Not a ton, but give him some snaps here and there, give him some touches, and he could break one to the house. You want that. Like, I think he's good for the team. It just comes down to his body has shown he cannot last in the end. It's not even like he's put many games together ever. It's like one game here and there he keeps coming back to and then getting hurt like instantly. It's not even like, okay, well, we'll have him for 10 games and then maybe he'll miss a couple. Like, it's just like we might have him for a half of a game.
Then that's the thing. It's like, what kind of stability are you getting? It's not just like a quick injury here and there and then he's right back. You cannot depend on him. And every injury and every roster decision impacts every other injury and roster decision. They ran out of IR spots last year in part because so many guys kept getting hurt. It's like, we might need that spot later. If we keep Elijah Mitchell on the team, like chances are his history has shown he's going to take up one of those spots.
Yeah, I mean, almost, he's kind of like the running back version of Kadarius Toney right now. It's like you keep holding out hope that these guys can stay healthy because when they are on the field, they're so incredibly talented and just electric in what they can do with the ball in their hands. But it's like that Kadarius Toney did the same thing. He showed us day one, oh, I'm going to get injured. Like, some of these guys just get injured all the time.
Here's Kyle Shanahan talking about Elijah Mitchell.
Everything with him. I mean, Elijah's extremely good back, and he's had some unfortunate things with injuries. He is a very physical runner, but you don't strain your abductor because you're running physically. So there's, I think all of our runners are pretty physical. Sometimes that can happen, but, his bad injury last year, he had his foot in the ground and someone hit his knee. I think it was his MCL. So you can't change your style. That's also what makes him great. I don't always think that's what's getting him hurt either. But he has had some muscle strains and stuff, and I think he got hurt on the exact same day last year in camp. It'll probably help him to be out here about a week and a half, most likely. But Elijah does everything right. He's been unfortunate with it. So hopefully we can find the secret remedy as we go.
Did Shanahan just come off of running a mile or something?
No, it's literally. That's just how he
Is
rolls.
he okay?
But I think he was kind of say what we said earlier. Like, it's not Elijah Mitchell's fault that he keeps getting hurt, but it doesn't matter. What matters is he does keep getting hurt, and you need somebody to spell McCaffrey. You're going to need somebody to take snaps away from him so he doesn't have to carry as much of the offensive burden. And you just can't. Mitchell's proven he can't be that guy. I think it's like, I think the jury's out now. Like, we don't need to wait any longer, do we?
Do you think that they'll be playing Ty Davis Price in the first preseason game? Because I was shocked yesterday. Yesterday we had the Hall of Fame game, and Jerome Ford, who is the second running back on the Browns roster, and Zonovan Knight, who's the second running back on the Jets roster with Michael Carter as well, they all sat out. And is that a new thing now too, where they're scared about backups getting hurt in games?
I think that, yeah, to be honest, like, and also like weird stuff happens with the Hall of Fame game. Remember, it got canceled a few years ago because the field was unplayable. The lights went out in the Hall of Fame game this week, and then the showers apparently didn't work afterwards for either team, which I'm sure that was an awesome bus ride home.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe for some reason that game is treated a little differently. But I mean, you got to play Ty Davis Price. You have to. Like, the dude was a ghost his first season. Let's go. Get him on the field. You got to play somebody in these games.
Yeah, I want to see him and Jordan Mason, and let's see what they can do, because I think if Elijah Mitchell is going to end up making the team, then it comes down to those two being the final spot. I know you're super pumped about what Jordan Mason did last year. I am much more like, I don't really think he's anything. So I hope Ty Davis Price wins the job because of his performance this summer.
What is your beef with Jordan Mason?
He had one good run, and now like you're using his stats, like how many yards after touch. It's like they all came on that one play that it was like at the end of the game. It would just happen to be like he's not anything special.
I think Jordan Mason is a solid player. Jordan, if you're watching this, Michelle Magdziuk at Ball Blossom on Twitter, feel free to reach out and take up your criticism with her. I think he's a solid player. I don't think he's like, he's not Christian McCaffrey out there, but I think he can be an absolutely solid contributor. Again, this was an undrafted free agent guy. Like, I'm going to be happy about him. He runs hard. That's all I'm asking out of him. And I think you're poo-pooing Jordan Mason.
I think if the 49ers were to cut him, he would have a hard time landing with another team. And if he did, he wouldn't get a single touch with that team throughout the season. So that's why I think that I hope Ty Davis Price shows something.
Somebody. I'm not picky. I don't care who it is. Just pick one of them. That's all I'm saying. I had my Jordan Mason stat ready to go, but you poo-pooed it before I even said it.
Oh my goodness. We're going to say the yards after contact.
4.2 yards after contact per attempt would have led the league if he had qualified.
My goodness. On one of those plays, he probably had 60 yards after contact. That means that's actually really bad then that he only had 4.0 or whatever. Because that means he did not do anything on any of the other carries. Because what
he
did
had? He have 43 carries on the whole year. So
exactly.
Like, we're not talking about a huge sample size, but it's still 6 yards per touch.
One carry go for that amount of yards, that's going to skew the data so much because it's only a 43 carry sample size.
But I also watch him. I've watched him play every game. I've seen him run. I like his running style. I like the way he runs.
When he comes on the field, I just shut my eyes and I don't watch him. I'm just kidding. I'm making fun of you that you're like, I watch him. What do you think I do?
I think I probably have seen more Jordan Mason carries than you. I'm a Niner fan. Why the hell would you care about Jordan Mason carries? I'm a Niner
fan, and I watch every single game.
I think you poo-pooed him. How dare you? Look at his game log. 5 carries for 25 yards against New Orleans. That's 5 yards a clip. 8 for 51 against Miami. That's good. 11 for 56 against Tampa Bay. Awesome. 4 for 64 against Seattle. That's good. You're very quick to dismiss.
I think any running back in this system is going to be fine. They're going to be good because we've seen it over and over and over and over again. Doesn't mean that player needs to be on the team.
I'm not saying he needs to be on the team, but I think if they had to start him, he's like Jeff Wilson. If they have to start him, they'll be fine.
No. I mean, they're going to be fine. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter who you put back there, but that's not that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about who will be the best, who's on their roster right now, if they had to start in the game.
And it could very well be. It could be Laybourne, too, who apparently has been getting some love, another undrafted guy. We will ultimately see. Let's shift gears a little bit. See that I did there? Played my little sound effect. I want to get into some of the little nuggets that I shouldn't say Warren Sharp did. I just read them out of his preseason guide. But there were a few things that jumped out to me that I shot to you because I'm just keeping an eye on them as we go. First one is that the 49ers were the number 18 offense in the red zone. This is an area with Kyle Shanahan consistently, he kind of struggles. He had 1 year, I want to say it was 2021, where they were really good in the red zone. But every other year of Kyle Shanahan's career, it's really been an area where his teams have really struggled to seal the deal.
Yeah, and if you even take it a step further, they ranked 21st in red zone drives that resulted in any score, not just a touchdown, so field goal or touchdown. And that actually decreased with Brock Purdy as a starter. It went down from 84.1% of the time they scored a field goal or touchdown down to 81.8%, which ranked tied for 23rd from weeks 14 through 18 when Purdy was the starter. But also when it comes to just the touchdown numbers, the 49ers are just kicking field goal attempts way too often when they get near the goal line. And you said that they led the league with 14 field goal attempts inside the 10 last year.
That's insane. Yeah. Say that again. 14 field goal attempts inside the what?
The 10-yard line. But they also had 10 field goal attempts inside the 5-yard line, which also led the NFL. The Buccaneers were the only other team that had more than 7 such attempts last year. So they had 9. They're in second. No other team had more than 7, and the 49ers had 10.
Like what?
Inside the 5.
That's insane. Why would you do that? This is what I'm talking about when I talk about Shanahan and aggressiveness on fourth down. There's no downside to going forward on fourth down. If you don't get it, the other team is pinned so far back, they're not going to be able to do anything. Like, what the hell?
Especially when you guys had that crazy of a defense last year.
Yes. And why not give your team one more chance to score? I don't understand it. Like, he's got to be, oh, God, if there is a Zoom call, I am jumping on that call, and I have to ask him about that. That is ridiculous. So it's 10 inside the 5, and how many inside the 10?
14.
So 4, I would assume 4 from 10 to 14. That is insane. 15 field goals. No. Like, no one on the team has been able to get it through his freaking head. That's what I don't understand. And he had a line in the Play Callers podcast series where he talked about how he's so proud of himself because when he was an offensive coordinator, he always just called plays to score points. And now that he's a head coach, he's mature and he realizes that you got to call plays to win games, not score points. No! You call plays to score points. Damn it, Kyle. You just ruined my Friday, Michelle.
Well, he is a very conservative coach because not only that, but then I looked at the 49ers by down last year. On first down, they passed only 41% of the time. That ranked 28th in the NFL. On second down, they passed only 53% of the time, which ranked 25th in the NFL. So like he is just conservative, and it worked out last year just fine. They were a good offense, they were a good defense, but sometimes it doesn't all just work your way. They got very lucky in the turnover department last year.
Yes.
And if they're not as lucky this year, I don't think you can be as conservative in all these games.
I completely agree. And I know people are like, well, what are you complaining about? Look at his record and they've been to the NFC Championship game. It's like, yes, that's all true, but that doesn't mean he can't be better. And when you look in the big games, especially playoff games, they're usually very close, one-score games, and your game management in that area is a huge factor in whether you win or lose. And he consistently makes the wrong calls in those situations. He makes it harder for the team to win. And it's very, very frustrating. And the what really gets me is that he thinks he's being so smart about it. Like, no, dude, you're just wrong.
He's a very good play caller. And they're just really good. Just overall, they have so much depth, just really talented roster. So I think that balances things out, right? And they win a lot of games, but it's like you are making it a little bit harder with how conservative you are. I do think he needs to be a little bit bolder, and then maybe they can take bigger leads in the first half, and it doesn't always have to be so stressful in the second half. Or maybe
Right.
earlier in the season, you can be a better team where you win games instead of being a 3-4 team and then having to like break off at the end of the year and be great. You should just be dominant all the time. Is that too much to ask?
Right. All I'm asking for is total perfection.
Yeah.
No, like perfect example, right? You're playing a game against, let's say it's like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Well, let's say the Niners are losing by 2 points and you get down inside the 10-yard line and it's 4th down. Kyle's kicking the field goal in that spot. I'm not. You got to go for the touchdown. Kicking the field goal and going up by 2 points against Patrick Mahomes is meaningless. You got to go for the freaking touchdown and you got to keep Mahomes off the field. Like, but Kyle never looks at it that way. And it like, does he not understand that 7 is worth more than 3? I don't get it.
I felt like it was his worst last year where it was just, he always just decided to kick. And I know every time he did that, it drove you absolutely crazy. Yep. But I mean, the numbers back it up. He did it far too often. Like it was just too much. I'm not saying every single time that you're in the red zone, you got to go for it on 4th down, but you're clearly doing it way too much when you get close to the goal line.
I'm saying it. If you're at the 10-yard line, honestly, like if you're in the red zone, yeah, I would say go for it every time. Unless it's like, if it's like 4th and 20, then obviously no. 4th and 5 or shorter, every time I would go for it. Every single freaking time. And yeah, you're not going to make some of them. That's okay. But I just, oh man, that really, really drives me nuts. Okay. The other thing I saw from the Warren Sharp football preview is that Shanahan cut way back on play action last year. He was actually below the league average in terms of how many times they went play action pass, which is a huge change for him because his whole system is predicated on the play action, or at least it was.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I looked into the numbers. He definitely did use play action way less, but I don't know if it actually matters with Brock Purdy because I've never seen these type of stats from a quarterback before where it doesn't matter if he used play action or no play action. So most plays with Purdy was no play action. It was 92 attempts to just 32 attempts with play action, but his passer rating was nearly identical, 119 with no play action, which is absurd. That is such a good number. And then with play action, 118.8. So a 0.2 difference. His completion percentage was nearly identical, 68.5 compared to 68.8. And like his yards per attempt, nearly identical. So I guess it doesn't really matter with him, but he did have way more attempts not using play action, which I do find weird since they're such a heavy running team and they're a good running team. I feel like you could take advantage of that. And Brock Purdy's plenty mobile enough to, get it done. But I can't really be upset about this since Purdy's so good with no play action.
Oh, I'm not necessarily saying I'm upset. I'm just saying it's a difference. Warren Sharp notes that through the first 5 weeks, the 49ers were averaging negative 0.1 EPA per attempt with play action, which is obviously not good. Only a 36% success rate. Without play action, they were at 54% success and a 0.41 positive EPA per play. So like basically Kyle figured out our play action is not really working, so we're going to do it less, which is actually a good thing. But I was just stunned because all everybody thinks about with Kyle Shanahan is run game, play action pass. And it'll be interesting this year. Like, do they continue that rate with Brock? Was it something that because Brock was a rookie, they felt like he, maybe it was harder for him to run play action, so they didn't. And now he has more time to study the system, so maybe they think it'll be different. I don't know, but I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah, and if it's Trey Lance in there, I feel like the play action would have to increase, right? You got to use play action with Trey Lance.
That's supposed to be the thing that they really liked about him too, is that he had done a lot of that stuff at North Dakota State. For them to be below league average, so league average is 38%. According to Warren, the Niners were at 33% of running play action last year. That's really, really low. And I always talk about how the system has to evolve. You have to do different things because guys learn your system and study it and all that stuff. And maybe this is one of the ways he's doing it, but I want to keep my eye on that because you would think that the Niners are set up perfectly to have a good play action team. But not all of these are things that like I'm mad about. It's just things that jumped out to me. Next one. This one was very evident for anyone that's watched the 49ers. Against passes that were thrown fewer than 15 yards, the Niners had the best defense in the league. But they were second worst against passes thrown more than 15 yards down the field. That is a big thing. I'm sure every offensive coordinator has noticed that, and they have to get that fixed this year.
Yeah, and when you're just even looking at downfield passes, so 10 plus air yards, that's all I'm talking here, 10 plus air yards. The 49ers allowed an open receiver 35% of the time. Open receiver is 3+ yards of separation at the time the ball arrives. The only teams that were worse were the Texans and the Bears, which we know how bad their defenses are. And then fourth worst was the Rams. Fifth worst were the Cardinals. So like these are bad secondaries that we're comparing right here. Like the 49ers should not be allowing a open play that often. That is a little bit scary, especially considering they haven't really added any pieces to their secondary this offseason. I feel like they have Travarius Ward. That's a really good coverage guy. And the rest are kind of just like, well, we hope for the best and please pass rush, get to the quarterback.
Well, here's the other thing is they were not blitzing that much last year. So it's not like they were like, hey, well, we just blitz all the time and we kind of leave our secondary, out on an island. And so maybe that's why they gave up some of these plays. Usually they had 7 guys in coverage. And the fact that they were still giving up those plays, that is a little scary.
Yeah, they definitely need to fix this. So you can't just be... Because again, like I just feel like my biggest worry is that their turnover luck is not going to last. So, we're hearing reports that Brock Purdy is, putting the ball in the harm's way this offseason during training camp. And we've discussed this summer that we felt like Brock Purdy kind of got away with a lot of plays that could have ended up bad last year, but the ball kind of bounced his way. If those start becoming turnovers and then the defense maybe has a few less turnovers that just fall into their lap this year, that's going to make a big difference overall. And you're not going to be able to give up these plays on defense like this and still expect to be as good of a defense as you were last year.
This is one area where I'm really hoping Steve Wilks can help. And a lot of the players have talked about the secondary and all the hands-on work he's done and that kind of thing. We know he's a secondary coach. They're going to need it. They're absolutely going to need it, especially when you look at the schedule and you look at some of the quarterbacks that they're going to have to play, right? They're going to have to play some pretty good quarterbacks. Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, obviously twice, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. So guys that are going to be able to take advantage of that. So you better get this damn thing fixed. And by the way, the Niners were really, really bad against top 10 pass offenses last year. They weren't just worse. They were bottom 5 when they faced a pass offense that could actually move the ball. So, yeah, I am a little concerned about that, especially because Wilks, from what we all hear, does like to blitz a little more. So now we're going to have even fewer people in coverage.
What's nice for you is that I don't know why I said for you. What's nice for 49ers fans is that to start the season, they get to play the Steelers, who never pass it past 10 yards ever. Yeah, their lives could be dependent on it. They're not going to do it. And then the Rams, and right now Cooper Kupp's dealing with an injury, so we'll see there. But he normally always gets targeted pretty short. And then the Giants, they're pretty much a short passing offense. The Cardinals might be playing Clayton Tune. So that's a really nice 4-week stretch there of like where your defense succeeds should go up well with the offenses they face.
Well, good. Let's get a nice little start here.
But they're going to lose against the Steelers.
Yeah, you keep saying that. We will see. And maybe, they're a little shaky early on and they round into form. We'll find out. I don't know. I think Tashaun Gibson is probably going to have a worse year. He had basically like one of his best years of his career last year. They signed him off the street. Like that was like completely unexpected. I don't know that he's going to be able to have as good a year. He's another year older. Now they do have Jair Brown, who I haven't really heard anything about in training camp. I know Mooney Ward said yesterday that he thinks that once the pads come on in the preseason games, he's going to be good. But like, that is literally the only thing I have heard about Jair Brown.
Because he's a late round, third round pick. And the only reason you are excited about Jair Brown is because he was like the 49ers first pick of the draft because they didn't have early picks. But like, no one expects a late, very late third round pick safety to do much of anything in the rookie season. But I feel like you guys are like, a lot of us have such high expectations for this poor player that the expectations should not be this high for him to be a starter right away, to perform well. He's not an early draft pick.
It's okay. I can't be excited about him. I can't want to hear how he's
excited about him, but I
practice.
feel like you think like he's going to come in and fix the secondary like instantly and be such a playmaker.
Always do this.
What?
I get excited about a player. Just, hey, I think this guy might be good. And you make it seem like I'm putting the guy in the Hall of Fame.
You have been this summer. You've been very excited about Jair Brown, and you think he's going to be a turnover machine. All I'm saying is that he's a late third round pick. He's probably not going to do anything this year.
Maybe, but maybe not. But like, if he's playing bad, I want to know that too. Just is he out there on the field?
He probably is, since he's a rookie, and he was, how many teams didn't want him for 3 rounds? Almost all of them.
Hey, the 49ers have a habit of finding guys later in the draft.
They do.
Fred Warner was a third round pick. That's all I'm saying. That one worked out pretty good for him. But I would just like to know one way or the other. But again, this is why we like preseason, right? Because Brown's going to be out there, and we're going to get to find out.
Why do we still have so long until the 49ers' first preseason game? I feel like the week 1 of preseason used to be earlier.
I don't think so, because they actually haven't changed the schedule since they went to 3. They just have the dead week at the end, which is where the 4th preseason game used to be. So I don't think they've changed it.
I remember having to wait until August 13th.
Yeah,
So late.
We're almost there. We're getting
I just want to see the 49ers in action. I want to see I mean, it's going to be interesting games no matter what, because Trey Lance, Sam Darnold are going to be out there. We got the running backs. We have I want to see these young defensive players as well. So I'm very excited for preseason games, which I'm sure we'll get to actually get into a game next time we talk on a podcast.
No, we're going to talk. When is the Niners?
Yeah, it's on the 13th, and we talk on Friday.
Oh yeah, I see. But the next one will be talking about the joint practices next week, which
but we'll also be talking about the preseason game that's going to be happening in 2 days.
It's going to be, those joint practices are going to be such a big deal. They're going to be so important. And I want to see what Kyle does. How does he split the reps? Does he give Trey reps with the ones? Does he give Darnold reps? Does Brandon Allen even touch the football? Like, I was super happy yesterday.
Yes.
He didn't touch the damn ball, which is exactly what should be happening. So thank you for that. Yes.
Keep it that way. You should not have another touch throughout training camp.
So yeah, the joint practices with the that's like those practices are basically like an extra preseason game. Like, I am super hyped to hear what happens with them. I don't know that we're going to get much footage from them, because I don't think that there's going to be anything allowed, which is kind of frustrating because they're very important and it's all sort of happening in secret. But whatever, I'll take what I can get. I'm very, very interested in that, though. I'm counting the days till the Raiders joint practices.
It'll be really good practice for the 49ers secondary, too, because the Raiders have really good weapons, honestly. It's not just Devontae Adams. They also now have Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow, who's a good route runner. Like, he's an underrated type of wide receiver. So I think this is good practice for them. And then also Jimmy Garoppolo knows this defense. So he knows kind of like, but also now the defense knows him.
Yeah.
So it kind of works both ways.
Not worried about that matchup.
No, but I think it's good for the secondary to get practice against these weapons. They're not like the best weapons in the NFL besides Adams, but I do think across the board, it'll be a nice test for them.
Kyle said yesterday he's pretty excited that they're going to face another team. And I guess like they kind of ramp up their practices to be like more and more intense as they go along. And it just so happens that where the Raiders joint practice lands is like when they were supposed to have their most intense practice. So you could tell like he's kind of eager to get going here, which, God, we all are. We're so close. Last weird stat from Warren Sharp that I want to get to. The 49ers were the least penalized team at home last season. They had 4 penalties a game at home. That was best in the league. but they were the third most penalized team on the road. They had 7 penalties per game on the road. And I don't know what to do with this. Like, I can't explain why. And I don't know if it would happen to be a fluke thing, or if for some reason there was something about playing on the road that caused them to commit more penalties.
Yeah, you think maybe some penalties that are happening more pre-snap or something with the crowd noise. I wasn't actually able to dig too much into what he was talking about with the stat here. My numbers don't match his whatsoever. We might be using different platforms. I don't know if his are correct or mine are correct, but it could just be the crowd noise, or maybe it's just a wild coincidence. I don't know.
Do you have your numbers in front of you? What do your numbers say?
I do. It says they had the 7th fewest penalties at home, and then they ranked 21st in penalties on the road. So not quite the 3rd worst. The 11th. It was the 11th worst.
That's really weird. And I trust you. So maybe there is a discrepancy there.
And a lot of them were holds. So really nothing that would make sense for being on the road. I don't think like crowd noise makes you hold more often. Maybe it does.
I don't know. It's just a very weird thing. 7 penalties per game on the road. That's a lot of freaking penalties. And we saw with the 49ers multiple times where they would just commit penalty after penalty after penalty and keep drives going. I can't remember which game it was. I'm trying to look back at the schedule really quickly. Was it the Kansas City game maybe? Or maybe it was Atlanta. It might have been the Atlanta game where there was like 2 scoring drives that their opponent had that were completely extended by penalties. That's the only way the team went down the field. And it was so damn frustrating.
Okay, so I want to let you know on air, I'm an idiot. I didn't do it by game. And then I realized some people have 9 road games and some people have 8, and the 49ers only had 8. So I had one less game. When you do it per game, they were the 5th most penalized team on the road, and it was 6.9 penalties per game on the road.
So that's still different than what Warren had.
Still a little bit, but at least it's closer.
Yes. I just like that you said that you're an idiot, because now I can cut that up and save that forever and have it for all time. You can save it
forever when you want.
Yes, good. So that
when Jordan Mason breaks off a 60-yard run in the first preseason game.
Wait till Juwan Jennings breaks out for 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns this year. How about that?
I'm not worried about that one.
Juwan Jennings in the middle of a fight at training camp already.
I did want to ask you when we were talking about the joint practices, if you had to put money down on one 49ers player to get in a fight with one Raiders player, who would you put your money down on? What's the fight?
I think that Max Crosby is going to start some stuff. I really do. So that'd be the Raiders player. Like, if he touches any 49ers quarterback, like, it's going to be bedlam. And maybe I think I would say Trent Williams.
Trent Williams taking on Max Crosby.
Trent Williams is a friggin', oh man, that's the one dude on the Niners I would not want to mess with. Remember the end of the playoff game against the Eagles? He like power bombed somebody at the end of that game. Do not mess with him. But I don't know did you watch the quarterback series on Netflix?
I've only watched the first episode.
So when the Chiefs play the Raiders, they keep showing Crosby, and Crosby is just making sure to make contact with Patrick Mahomes pretty much every time he's in the backfield, just like hitting him in the head and stuff. And Mahomes is looking back like, dude, like, knock it off. Like, I get it. You want to make contact with me, but like, you're doing stuff that's really borderline. And they kind of go at it back and forth. And then after the game, they're fine. But like, Crosby is that kind of guy where he just likes to stir it up. And so I think that if I had to put money down on where I think the fight's going to come, it's going to be that. Because there's going to be at least one fight.
I just want no one to get injured during the fight or just during practice. That's key. But yeah, I mean, last year during joint practices, we saw Aaron Donald try to kill some people with his helmet.
Never got punished for that at all because
I guess now players have learned, hey, we can do whatever we want in practice because we're not going to get punished. This is the time to do it.
Yeah, the league doesn't punish you for that. The teams have to do it. And the Rams were like, Aaron, can you just please maybe think about
What happens if that happens again this year? I feel like they're going to have to come up with some rule that you will get in trouble. You can't just be trying to hit people with your helmet.
Right. Like Myles Garrett did that in the game, and it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
remember?
and then he was suspended for 6 games. I don't know how you go from doing that just in a different setting and a
Right.
6-game suspension to nothing. Not at all. Like no punishment.
Yeah, I don't even. Did they even like fine him? I
don't
can't even
think so.
remember. But yeah, whatever it was obviously way too light. I was just going to ask you another question, and now I forgot because you asked me and you threw me off.
Sorry.
How dare you? It's totally out of my head now. It's completely gone.
You can text me later and I won't respond.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks very much for that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Did you listen to 49ers in 5 this morning?
No, I didn't.
So for the first time today, I had to run through an injury list, and I started to get scared. I was like, no, we're here already. Like Aaron Banks is in the concussion protocol. Obviously, Elijah Mitchell was the big news. John Feliciano was banged up. Like, we can't be doing this now. We haven't even gotten to the first preseason game.
It's the worst part about training camp is you get so excited and then preseason games and there's always huge injuries across the league. And you just have to really hope that it's not ones that are too really important players and they're not long-term injuries for any of these guys.
By the way, if you don't know what 49ers in 5 is, haven't heard of it, it's just a quick 5-minute daily update every morning that I do. It has all the news you need to know, sound bites from press conferences, interviews, just a quick thing to just make sure you're up to date on everything happening. Because let's be honest, you don't want to sit around and watch the entire press conference from every 49ers person every week. And you don't have to. I'll do it for you. And you can download it where your podcasts are. You can watch it now. I put it on YouTube. It's a whole video now. It's become a thing, but a lot of people seem to like it. So if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out.
It's pretty great.
I'm finally convincing Michelle to listen to it because I'll give you the text in the middle of the day. Hey, do you listen to 49ers?
I always listen to the gold standard with you and Levin. Never miss that.
Oh, wow. Oh, so where do you come down on the debate then? Because Levin and I got into that. Is it okay to root for one 49ers quarterback over another in training camp? Not during the games, but just in training camp.
It's not about if it's okay or not, right? Like, it's one of those things like you almost just don't want to admit. But I think everyone, like, yeah, we're rooting for Trey Lance to be better. And I'm with you when you hear Brock Purdy, might throw an interception or be struggling. You're like, ooh, maybe Trey Lance can, start to take over here. But it really is one of those things where once the season starts, if it's Brock Purdy, we're going to be all in on Brock Purdy, and I want him to be the best he can be. I really enjoyed watching Brock Purdy last year, so it's not like I'm dreading watching him. He was really fun to watch. It's just the fact that we've been waiting so long to see Trey Lance to get his shot. We're just kind of still holding out a sliver of hope and just, don't want to let that go yet.
Right. And yeah, just the only reason that I feel this way is because it's a zero-sum game, right? Like, if they were both wide receivers, they could both start. And so there would be no reason to worry, or pit one against the other. But because it's a quarterback and there's only one, and especially because Trey seemingly has, more work to do, right? He's got to look really, really good. And Brock has to look bad for even Trey to have a tiny shot to be the starter. That's where I am right now. And I want to be honest with people, right? Like, that's the one thing you can count on for me. You may disagree with everything I say, but you're going to get straight honesty from me. And so that's where I'm at right now. When Brock overthrows guys and throws incompletions and throws interceptions, I'm sitting there like, yes. And I think they're rooting for Trey.
I think the most important thing is that when we're talking about the two, we're giving how they honestly are doing in camp. And we're not only bringing up the good stuff about one player and the bad stuff about the other. It's really just talking through what they're doing and giving the whole entire story. You can have a rooting interest, but still be honest about what's happening.
If you only get your news from Grant Cohn, you would think that Brock Purdy looks terrible and that Trey Lance looks great. If you only get your news from David Lombardi, you would think that Trey Lance is awful and can't hit a screen pass, and Brock Purdy looks like the second coming of Joe Montana. So like we always say, you have to just go to a variety of people, because as frustrating as it is, it's sort of the nature of training camp. People see different things. Some people, if a play would have been a sack, they still count the resulting play. Some people don't. So there's so much variance there that you have to go to more than one place to try and get an accurate picture of what's happening.
Yeah. And we'll try to be as honest as we possibly can be. That's my
You
goal.
would never lie to the people, would you?
Never.
All right. Well, by the way, before we go, happy anniversary to you and your wife, Kate. 5th wedding anniversary. That is a huge deal. And you informed me before the show that you don't care what the traditional wedding anniversary gifts are. Only old fuddy-duddies like me apparently care about that stuff.
Yeah, you asked me like what is the normal like apparently it's wood. I did not give my wife any present made of wood, but we did get a trip to LA. I think that's better. What would you prefer? I think a trip to LA is a little bit better.
Well, it's not like you have to buy her a house. Like you could just do something small. For people that don't know, every year that you're married, there's traditional gifts that you give out for first year, second year, third year, and then there's like a modern list that I guess they've updated at some point. And some couples, I won't say who, like to go buy one of those items on the list. It's kind of a cool thing. And also, like, I'm in year 14. Okay. Like, I'm having trouble coming up with stuff. Give me a little guidance. Let me go to the list. Okay. Wood. All right. That'll at least give me, like, narrow it down a little bit for me. And so I asked Michelle if she was into that. And apparently, nope, not a thing. I'm an idiot.
Yeah. It's just for old people. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. I'm like 5 years older than you. Let's not act like I'm,
Well, you act
98.
like you're 20 years older.
That's actually 100% fair. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. If you leave a review, we'll read it on the show. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find Michelle on social media or on X now at Ball Blast 'em. Listen to her fantasy football podcast, the Ball Blast Football Podcast. And if you want even more fantasy news, Lockdown Fantasy, Michelle, you've added another podcast to your plate.
Yeah, Locked On Fantasy Football. Every single day, I give you an episode. So go subscribe and listen. We just went through rookies and what we think about them this year, and we've given you a lot of information just in this first week that I've done it. So go listen if you love you some fantasy football advice.
Not gonna lie, I don't like that you have another podcast host. I feel like you're kind of cheating on me.
You'll always be my favorite. You'll always be my favorite.
Yeah, you say that. Wait for a week from now when all of a sudden you're not showing up for the show and you got other stuff going on. I can see it coming.
Never
Right,
would I ever.
Enjoy your Friday and your weekend, everybody.
Bye, y'all.